Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We do have a lot of stuff to get to, so we really appreciate you being here. On today's show, Israel and Iran. They have been newly emboldened in a shadow war in a face-off in Syria. Kristen Nielsen, chief of Homeland Security, almost resigned after a tirade from Trump about his borders. It's probably going to be my favorite story of the day. And also, this is a pretty good one too. A North Carolina sheriff doubled down on cooperation with ICE, so voters gave him the boot Tuesday night. So that's very cool as well. Very happy to have you here with us today. We got a great show for you. Happy Friday, of course. We are completely packed as usual. Alright, so now we do turn our attention to Jerusalem. The tense shadow war between Israel and Iran burst into the open early Thursday as Israeli warplanes struck down dozens of Iranian military targets inside Syria. It was a furious response to what Israel called an Iranian rocket attack launched from the Syrian territory just hours earlier. But here is the thing. There has been some cross-border exchanges. Some of the most serious assaults from each side in their face-off in Iran's presence in Syria took place little more than a day after the United States withdrew from the Iran nuclear agreement. I just want to get this here completely clear. There is no doubt that in this particular situation, if you draw the line at beginning of April, because I know you can go back and find provocations from Iran whenever Iran last did a provocation, say, oh, what about that? But you have to kind of be sensible about where you draw the line, and I think it's definitely clear that this is something that has been started by Jerusalem and Israel. President Netanyahu, he's under a lot of stress right now. He's under a lot of corruption allegations. He is hanging on almost by a thread. Even though he has a lot of power still on the world stage, he is in a lot of political trouble. So how do you get out of that political trouble? You start a war. So there's been constant provocations. Earlier in April, there was 7 Iranian military advisors killed in an airstrike. And I mean, there's been various rockets thrown or launched, obviously, at the Iranians by the Israelis for an extended period of time, and even an hour after Trump put on a nuclear deal, making them extra assured. Why? Because they wanted Iran to hit back, and they knew Iran would do that, and it would be a clear victory, and they'd be able to say, you know what, Iran started it, and the mainstream media here in the United States and really around the world would oblige. But no, we do have the power of looking back and doing some actual research in the past, and we can tell you, even though some people in the mainstream media are going to say, oh, Israel are the victims, they're the poor victims on this, it's just not the case on this one, and it's something I believe is very important actually to be honest about. And actually tell the truth, because we cannot, we really do not want to get this twisted. That's the most important thing here. So we want to get the facts straight, and we want to, because I mean, this is good. This has the potential to arise into what is a very, very serious conflict here, and that is not something anybody wants to see, and hopefully they will not have to see it if we stay smart about this. So, yeah, Israel's defense minister said the Israeli warplanes have destroyed nearly all of Iran's military infrastructure in Syria after Iran launched 20 targets at Israeli-held territory, none reaching their targets, and that's because President Obama gave them the Iron Dome, which was able to shoot down a lot of those missiles, which is huge. So that is something that we do not see very often at all. a country in the Middle East with such advanced technology. Who gave him that technology? President Barack Obama. And I'm sure Benjamin Netanyahu, he's already been in contact with President Barack Obama and the United States government, say, "Oh, thank you so much, thank you to your last president, President Donald Trump. Thank you to Barack Obama for giving this amazing Iron Dome technology to shoot this down." No, Netanyahu criticized Obama, and now he's friends with Trump, and he will not give Obama a lick of credit. So, yeah, Iran struck shortly after President Trump pulled out of the nuclear agreement. Raising speculation no longer felt constrained by the possibility the Americans might scrap the deal if Iran attacked Israel. That's exactly right. Because they had been so pissed off by the Israelis and their continued provocations again and 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 again. The point is, I mean, they just had enough, and now that Trump had pulled it out of the Iran deal again, I mean, it makes sense. They no longer felt constrained by the possibility the Americans may scrap it if Iran attacked Israel. So Israel appeared newly emboldened, partly by what seemed like an extraordinary latitude from Russia, Syria's most important ally, allowing the Israelis to act against Iran's military assets in Syria. So, latitude from Russia has been really key in their ability to take this action. Moscow did not condemn Israel's strikes as it had in the past, and said, calling on Israel and Iran to resolve the differences diplomatically. That's not what Netanyahu wants, obviously. Otherwise, he wouldn't have started these bombing campaigns weeks ago. I mean, Iran couldn't hit back because there's still so much speculation over the nuclear deal. Now they can, and now Israel's just going to blow up about it, which is just not true. And so we need to have the facts. We need to put our facts in order here. So, President is and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, who spent 10 hours with Vladimir Putin on Wednesday, told his cabinet on Thursday, he had persuaded the Russians to delay the sale of advanced weapons to Syria. Israel and Iran have been allies in the Syrian war, defending President Bashar al-Assad. But as the war appears to be winding down, thank God, some analysts say the aims of Russia and Iran are diverging. Moscow prefers a strong secular central government in Syria, where Tehran prefers a weaker government that would allow Iran-backed militias more free reign in the region. So some of their aims here are diverging, so we could be witnessing kind of a breakup of sorts of these two powers in the region. So Israel has conducted scores of strikes on Iran and its allies in Syria, rarely acknowledging them publicly. But before Thursday, Iran had not retaliated, seemingly handcuffed, while it awaited Trump's decision on the nuclear accord. Finally, we get a paragraph that shows you, like, literally, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the 9th paragraph in this New York Times report. And that is the only point, if you're reading this, that you would have known that there was any kind of efforts. There was any kind of effort to really tell you that this was not, in fact, a retaliation. This was not, in fact, a kind of a provocation started by the Iranians. It was, in fact, started by Israel. But that's a very important thing to acknowledge. I mean, I'm not saying anyone really likes the Ayatollah here, but there isn't a lot to go on with. So anyway, yeah. Before Thursday, Iran had not retaliated, and they were handcuffed, and that just seemed to be the way it was. And even so, the Iranians still really have plenty to lose if the conflict continues to grow. They seem determined to preserve their nuclear accord despite the renewed American sanctions, and the accord also does include, as we know, Russia, China, Britain, France, Germany, and the EU. So it's a lot of other countries there in the EU that are not entirely being counted. So we see now that Netanyahu feels that Iran's capacities in Syria are vulnerable, so that he can target them. And he really shouldn't, in my opinion. It's something that's really unethical. If he tries to do it, if he tries to do, I think there's going to be a very bold, very blunt, and very bad provocation here by Netanyahu, who just for really no apparent reason other than the fact that he thinks you can take him. He thinks you can take him. He talks in the Benjamin Netanyahu kind of talks like in the weirdest way. It's very funny. It imitates. So yeah, Olaf Salzberg, an international crisis group analyst, says, we can see now that Netanyahu feels that Iran's capabilities in Syria are vulnerable, that he can target them, that Iran's capacities to strike back are weakened. He took out some of these capacities, probably less than he claimed, and that Iran has no significant way to react without risking itself. So that's Ofer Salzberg on that take. So Iran made it clear Thursday that it was planning airstrikes. That its planning for the airstrikes had been known internally as chess, and it looked like in the aftermath, as though Iran might have been baited into a trap on the Syrian game board. It's really kind of disappointing. It's really quite unfortunate that we see Syria. It's quite unfortunate the fact Syria is a game board. That's a little bit disturbing, to say the least. Because, I mean, if you look at the geography of these two countries, but kind of just trying to, like, put them on the map here, I mean, it's really, like, that's what's holding them back, almost. So, if you look at what's going on here, we got Saudi Arabia, we got Iraq, we got Syria, and, it's a little problematic, just to say the least, because Lebanon's kind of caked in the middle there, but there's Israel, and there is Syria, and then there's Tehran kind of forming like a U over the top of the Red Sea. So it's really kind of tough, because all this conflict is packed into this one little place here, and it's really like that. Like that's kind of where the center of the conflict is right now, and it's really interesting to see what will be coming out of this one. So, it's obviously something we're going to be monitoring here on the show. And early on Thursday, Iranian forces fired about 20 Grad and Fair 5 rockets at the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights neighborhood or village in Syria, targeting the forward positions of the Israeli military. According to Israeli military spokesman, the barrage was launched under the commands of the Quds Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and used Iranian weapons, said the Israeli spokesman, Lieutenant Jonathan Kornrikis. So obviously, in these conflicts between these countries, I mean, and even when we're involved, we got to take everything the government says with a grain of salt. We need to obviously wait for independent investigators to confirm, but that is at this point what we know now. So, 4 of the rockets were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome anti-missile defense system, courtesy U.S. Barack Obama, thank you very much, and the rest fell short of Israel's controlled territory, the military said. Israeli life returned to routine in the Golan Heights, apparently with children going to school there, so that's good. Want to keep the children out of it, and a lot of this war is just, again, it's developing as using proxy war and just using, literally, Syria is being treated as a game board. Like, that's what we got. Syria is being treated literally as a game. Like, there's people that live there, too. Jesus Christ. So, I mean, it just seems a little ridiculous. Iran had to make a point. Joshua M. Landis, a Syrian expert, said that it can respond even if it's a weak response, but it's also revealed the weakness. These rockets don't have any brains. And, I mean, I feel like if they went to Russia and maybe they had to cave in a little bit, but if they just need to earn back the support of Russia, they could really start a racket. And, I mean, there is a suspicion in you, a pretty strong suspicion, that Netanyahu is going to be the driving force behind this whole situation, just because he wants to add to the conflict and add to his possible chances of getting reelected and creating conflict around the region as he faces his kind of political pressure points